Good morning. This is a Google slideshow that I'm recording that will go with the assignment for chapters 1 and 2. So please use this and pause it whenever you need to complete the assignment. And then you are just going to upload that assignment into Canvas to complete the assignment. As I said in the assignment, please, you might want to consider making a virtual speech folder in your Google Drive, and then put this video and also the assignment, put a copy of the assignment in that folder, because you're going to be able to use that assignment when we are ready to take quizzes and tests. Okay, so it's important that you keep that organized so that you can find it easily later. Okay, the first few chapters about speech are basically about the communication process and barriers that happen when we communicate with each other. The communication process is very simple. You have a receiver, you have a sender, a message, a receiver, and then feedback. When all those things take place, communication has occurred. As you know, as well as I know, communication can fail to take place for many reasons. Maybe the sender didn't communicate the message clearly. Maybe the receiver never heard the message. Maybe the receiver misunderstood what the sender was saying, and the feedback was either something hurtful, negative, or just didn't have anything to do with the original message. There are many problems that can occur with communication, but the process itself is pretty simple. There are 4 types of communication that we're going to talk about: nonverbal, written, oral, verbal, and also symbols. The first type is nonverbal. So this is communication that includes facial expressions, gestures, and paralinguistics. And paralinguistics include loudness or the tone of your voice, your body language, your personal space, your eye contact, touch, and appearance. All of these things go into communication. So when people see how you're dressed, or the tone of your voice can really matter when it comes to communication. That doesn't mean that you always care that you're dressed, in a way that is positive or that you feel like will impress other people. That's not the case at all. Sometimes we dress for comfort. We just want to make sure that in certain situations that you are wanting to communicate the proper things. When you go to the grocery store, or when you go to the movies, or when you're hanging out with friends, do you probably care what you look like? No. But when you're giving a speech, or you're having an interview with somebody for a job, or you're going to a funeral or a wedding, of course you're going to change your appearance, because that communicates how you are feeling about the situation. So those are all types of nonverbal communication. And as you know, facial expressions, eye contact, gestures that people make are all very important to communicate your feelings. The next type is written communication. This involves any type of message that involves the written word. So obviously written communication is the most important and most effective of any sort of business communication. And I'm going to go ahead and say that this is extremely important in the world of education as well, especially now that we are virtual. Our written communication is extremely important. That means when you send an email to a teacher, you don't just say, "Hey, I need this." You should say, "Dear Mr. or Mrs. whoever." Then you can explain what it is that you need. Thank you for your time, and then your name. Now, if an email chain starts going back and forth, you email me, I email you, you may drop some of that. Every time we send an email back and forth, if we're having a 5-email conversation, we're not going to say, "Dear Johnny, dear Mrs. Rowe." Then you kind of drop that sort of formal communication after a while. But if you have a question for a teacher, it's always important to start out with "Dear Mr. or Mrs." it shows the teacher or the adult that you're communicating with, it could be your boss, it could be a parent, that you are taking the time to be respectful in your communication, which really goes a long way in how others feel about you. Okay, the next one is, did I do, okay. Excuse me. I'm not awake this morning. Verbal communication, spoken communication. So it's when we talk to each other. It's hearing each other's voices. That's pretty easy. All right, 2 types of verbal communication include interpersonal communication and intrapersonal communication. Inter is a prefix that means between. So you engage in interpersonal communication when you talk to somebody else. You engage in intrapersonal communication when you have a conversation with yourself. When you have a conversation with yourself, you have a sender, that's you. You have a message. The receiver is you. And then there's usually feedback. Okay, so whether it's you getting up in the morning and saying, okay, I can do this today. I'm going to get up, I'm going to shower, I'm going to make it through today. That is communication that you're having with yourself. It can also be negative communication. Like, why did you do that? I can't believe I was so stupid. That is all communication. We communicate with ourselves constantly, and it's important. It doesn't make you crazy. It's important that we communicate with ourselves. Okay, rhetoric is the art or study of public speaking. So communication, whether it's intrapersonal, interpersonal, written, verbal, that's all, we do that all the time. But when we study public speaking or public speaking itself, that's called rhetoric, because it's messages that we are conveying to people. Within this communication, there are many different barriers that can be found. The first one is ethical differences. We don't all believe the same thing. We have different opinions. We have different values. We have different morals. And that's okay, because that's what makes the world go round. That's what makes us who we are. That's what makes you, you, and that's what makes me, me. And do we have to agree on everything? Absolutely not. The important thing when it comes to public speaking or any communication at all is being respectful. So all of these have to do with, at the end of all of it, it has to do with respect. If you have a certain opinion about something and you go to have a conversation about it and you immediately insult the other point of view, you're going to break down the communication. You're never going to have a good conversation with that person. And why would you? Because you insulted them. It doesn't matter what side of the divide you align with. Say it's a political debate. If you're giving a speech about abortion, maybe you are pro-life, but the majority of your audience is pro-choice. They shouldn't just immediately get upset with you. They are going to be open and respect your ideas and opinions. They don't have to agree with you, but it's important as an audience member, which we will each be, both a speaker and an audience member, that we are respectful of differences. So when you're talking with your friends, you probably don't agree with everything that each other believes. But every time they say something you don't agree, you can't just say, well, that's stupid. I don't, you're wrong, so I'm not going to listen to you. That doesn't work. In fact, this happened yesterday with my son. I can't even remember what we were talking about. And he said to me, he kept talking over me. And I said, talking over me doesn't make you win the argument. And he said, yeah, but it stops you from being able to say what you're going to say, so I don't have to listen to you. Okay, that's true, but it still doesn't negate what I'm saying. And in communication, effective communication has not occurred at that point. Stereotyping, conscious and subconscious. So be aware of any sort of stereotyping. Just because someone wants to talk about a specific topic, don't automatically make judgments about that person. We each have reasons for what we believe and for what we say. Filtering of messages due to biases. So if you have someone who comes up and you're listening to a speech that someone is giving about animal rights, and you're sitting in the audience going, oh Lord, it's one of these people, here we go again. You're automatically being biased and you're stereotyping, which you're not going to hear what that person has to say. You never know what you're going to learn unless you take the opportunity to listen. And that expands your mind, which is great because that's when learning occurs. Last one, reacting to a message. It's okay if you don't like what the person has to say. When you are having communication with someone, whether it's your friend, a romantic interest, a teacher, a parent, if you automatically overreact, that communication is done. So if you go up to your parent and say, Mom, Toby's having a party on Friday, is it okay if I go? And your mom stops and thinks and says, well, I'm just not sure with this COVID stuff. And you automatically get upset and you're like, oh, I cannot believe this. Of course you're going to say that. Of course you're going to say no. Great. Now my whole evening's ruined. And you stomp upstairs. Do you think there's a chance that she's going to come back and say, oh, well, yeah, you're right. I did overreact. I probably should have just said yes. Well, of course not. She's going to get mad because of the way you reacted to her message. Maybe if you would have engaged in a conversation and said, Mom, I know you're concerned, but everybody's going to wear their masks. There's only going to be 5 people there. And we are, these are the same people that I've been hanging around with for the past 3 months. So I think we're going to be fine. If that was your reaction, you might have gotten an answer that you like. Maybe not, but chances are better that you would have than if you had just gotten angry and overreacted in the first place. Okay, part of public speaking is also about being confident. A lot of people are very, very nervous about public speaking, and that is completely understandable, and that's something that I hope that we can work on. Now, I know that we are not in a situation where we are face-to-face, but I hope even through the process of creating an outline, learning what you're going to say, rehearsing what you're going to say, and then recording it is helpful for you to gain confidence when you do have the opportunity to speak in public. There are 2 things that really impair confidence, and that is fear and perception. Fear, stage fright. It's a real thing. People have it. It's debilitating sometimes. It can really overtake someone's speech, and it's hard to experience and it's hard to watch as well. Understand that this is a real thing, and with practice and confidence, this can be overcome. Perception, how you perceive your audience and how you think the audience is perceiving you can play a big role in your confidence. Feel good about what you're going to say, be excited about what you're going to say, and believe in what you're going to say. When you appear confident, the audience is going to take that in. So understand, at least in our classroom, now this can't be said for every place, but in our classroom, know that your audience are peers that are just as nervous as you are. And so they are not going to be watching a video and judging you. They are going to be watching your video, listening to the content. They are going to be watching the things that you do well. They're not going to be sitting there judging because you made a mistake and said 10 times. Well, I say all the time too. So just as much as you're judging me, I guess, then at some point you have to say, okay, so I messed up. Oh, well. You are not going to be you need not to be overly concerned about what people are feeling about your speeches. Know that we are all in the same position and we are all here to support each other. Okay, if you think about things that you are afraid of, thinking about the concept of fear. Usually if we were in class in person together, we would talk about your biggest fears. My biggest fears, I really, really don't like spiders. Um, if I see one, I don't know why, but it scares me to death. I just think it's gonna come get me. I don't like uh, the thought of really deep water. It scares me. I don't like to be in a position where I can't see land. I know there's a lot of stuff under the water, and I'm not afraid of the water. I grew up swimming. I grew up on a lake. Um, that's not it. It's the deep water, I guess, and even the deep end of the pool freaks me out, which is so weird because I have swam ever since I was 5 years old, and it's kind of silly and embarrassing, but I'm kind of afraid of the deep end. The other thing is I don't like the dark. I like to sleep with a nightlight. I don't like to not know what's there. Then I want you to think about how you react to that fear when you see something that scares you, whether it's a snake or heights is a big one, or maybe a fear of enclosed spaces. How do you react? Is your reaction to fight? Is to just put up a fight, or is your reaction to scream and run away? I'm pretty sure my reaction is to scream and run away because I do not look at a spider and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to get you. I am like, hey, can you take care of that for me? Because I really don't want to mess with it. And that's just part of your personality. Depends on how you react to things. There is a really funny video if you look up the Ellen Show, and she does those pranks where she scares people. Their reactions are pretty funny to watch because some of them like lunge towards the thing that scares them, and then there are others who just scream and run away. And most of them scream and run away, but it's kind of funny to see. And that's just ingrained in who we are. It doesn't say anything about us. It's just who we are. Let's see here. I think we've already talked about this. Okay. So how do we improve our confidence? These are called planks of confidence. So ways that we can improve our confidence. And I'm going to go through these. Remember, you can pause this at any time if you need to write these things down. The first plank of confidence is content. Have something worthwhile to say. If you don't like it or you're bored with it, you're not going to be interested in talking about it, and it's going to be boring to watch. So make sure you like your content. Be organized. Use an outline. Have a clear focus and have strong supporting evidence. Do your research. When you are organized, you know exactly what comes next. Notes. So note cards. Use notes as a memory springboard. When you write down, when you create note cards, you aren't just writing everything down word for word. That would be called reading a script. And that's not what we do in speech class. We do what's called extemporaneous speaking, which is you can use notes to help you. So for instance, right now, what I'm doing, I do not have everything that I'm saying right now written out word for word. I'm using these, the points in the Google slideshow to help me know what I'm going to say next. You will not always have a Google slideshow in front of you, so that's why you use note cards, okay? Friendliness is another plank of self-confidence. If you are friendly to your audience and you are smiling, you're going to receive positive feedback. I know that's not necessarily an issue with a virtual classroom, but if you are ever in front of a group of people, smile because they are going to return that smile and it makes you feel better. Impression, the impression that you give people, positive attitude, appropriate dress. You look good and you feel good. Okay, you could have your, llama pajamas on with your bunny slippers when you're recording a speech. That's completely fine. As long as you're not wearing your onesie pajama with the hood up, or a hat on or headphones on, it doesn't matter as long as you look presentable from the, waist up, whatever, that's all you need to worry about for virtual speech. If you're giving a presentation in the future, you want to give a good impression. You don't necessarily have to dress in something super expensive, just in something that you feel like makes you look good and makes you feel good. The next thing is dedication. Practice, practice, practice. Speech class is not rocket science. It is not, trigonometry. It is not some sort of super science class. It is simply about speaking. And in order to know what to say, you have to do research, you have to prepare, and then you practice. And this practice can be as simple as creating a practice video, presenting your speech in front of a mirror. You could set up a bunch of stuffed animals. If you have family that you want to sit down on the couch and practice in front of, make them sit on the couch and practice in front of them. Call up your grandparents, say, hey, can I give you a speech over FaceTime? And I'm sure they would love that more than you know. The more you practice being in front of a camera, the more comfortable you're going to feel. Empathy empathy is more important when you have a live audience, but this is just very general for life as well as speech class. Establish common ground with your audience. Be sincere with what you're saying. Understand that the people that are speaking are just as nervous and scared as you are. Okay, when we know that we're all in this together, it creates a common bond where we're supporting each other instead of tearing each other down. Okay, your job as a friend is not to judge your friend and tell them everything they do is wrong. Your job as a friend is to be supportive. So think about your classmates, regardless of if it's a virtual classroom or a in-person class. You want to establish common ground. You want to be supportive, and you want to present positivity, not negativity. And another thing is when you are choosing your speeches, be original. Pretty much anything goes, except for, you can't explain to me like how to roll a joint or something. That would not be appropriate and not original. That has happened before. So tell when you speak about something that's important to you, it is communicated to the audience, and we can tell by the way that you are speaking and the way that your body language is being presented that you're interested. And that is always so much more interesting to watch and to listen. And have some conviction. Believe what you are going to say. I like this quote. One needs to be slow to form convictions, but once formed, they must be defended against the heaviest of odds. So a conviction is a belief. So if you believe that, let's see here, the death penalty should be banned, and you believe that, then that is a conviction. That is something that you have taken time to research. You have formed educated opinions about it, and you are ready to defend that stance. And it could be as simple as you think that soccer is the best sport in the world. If you believe that, great. Have support and evidence to back that up. It's great when people have convictions and strong beliefs. I had a student last semester who was very, very strong in his faith and gave every speech about Christianity, and it was fabulous. He did so in a way that showed his own conviction without ever once pressuring any other student or anybody else in the classroom to make them feel like they had to adopt his beliefs. He just presented it as information, and it was really neat to see because that excited him. That was what he was passionate about. And the last thing, enthusiasm. Get fired up. The best speeches, the best presentations are made by those who are passionate and excited about what they're saying because it draws people in. And when you are speaking, you want to draw people in. All right. I believe that is it for today. Remember, you can go back and pause this, replay it at any point in time. Just make sure you get the assignment done and turned in. I'll talk to you later. Have a great day.